world's most respected MMO news site, Massively Overpowered, comes a programme that pits one MMO against another in a battle of wits. To the death. Welcome to Massively Opinionated. Media personalities from all over the internet come to this forum to face off in the ultimate debate. Everyone is entitled to their wrong opinion, but ours is the only one that matters. Having heard that someone was wrong on the internet, it's your host, Larry Everett!
Hey everyone, this is Larry Everett, and you are watching the 4th episode of Massively Opinionated, where we take the biggest MMO tropes around the internet and pit them against each other in a battle to the death. And today we are talking about content creation and community and how those work together and how they don't at the same time. So I've got 3 internet content creators here today. I have from YouTube, the Cosmic Engine. It's Cosmic Engine. Where did you go? There you are. How's it going?
All right, yeah.
Pretty good, pretty good. And then I also have from Massively Overpowered, I have our EVE Online writer, as well as our massively, not so massively writer. I have Brendan Drayton. How's it going?
Hey.
Oh, he's I'll give an excuse. He's across the pond, and so therefore he's out. He's gone.
Nope.
No. There you.
How many thanks?
Not really. We'll just we'll go with it. You're good.
Wait, I thought he was just a master ventriloquist.
He is. He's an amazing ventriloquist. And I have Twitch streamer and all around just amazing guy. I have Redna. How's it going?
Hey, Larry, how you doing?
Pretty good. Pretty good. So we are talking about content creation and community and how that revolves around MMOs and not so MMOs, online gaming and that sort of thing. But what I would like to do first is just go over a few of the rules and how this works here. I have given our panelists today, I've given them 4 questions, and that they have to answer, that were given ahead of time, and they gave me the answers that, so I can make sure that we have a good debate going on here. And for each question that they'll give their arguments, they'll battle each other, they'll go back and forth a little bit, and when they're done, I will give a ruling as to who has the best answer for the question. They'll get a point. At the end, whoever has the most points wins the internet, or something along that line. You get one.
King of content.
King of content. There we go. Very good. Very good. So, are you guys ready to get started? Are you warmed up?
Yep.
Oh, okay. All right. All right. Stretched out. Okay. Let's go to the first question, and since he's first on my list, I will go to Cosmic for this one. I asked, all of you guys make content in the gaming communities in slightly different way. Cosmic does YouTube reviews and those kinds of things. So I would like to know why your way is the best way or most effective way to reach the MMO audience. Go ahead.
Well, first off, I brought Frank with me, so I'm channeling the power of Frank Underwood to win today's election. My way is the best way, or I think it's at least the best way for viewers to watch, is because primarily, like it's been said, I use YouTube videos to release my content. My content is all about reviews, so it's all about products, video games, and I do early access critique. And it's specifically designed so that you can watch it anytime. You can even download the audio. So if you want to listen to it in the car, you can do that and just listen to it as an audio file, or you can watch the video, see the gameplay. And it's the best way of doing it because it shows you everything about the game. it's not just my opinions on the game. It's also objective, hard facts about the game, so viewers can make informed opinions about the game that they're watching. And not only is it just me telling them, they can see it on screen, what I'm talking about. And so, if they see a game on Steam and they want to check it out, they look at it and I offer them the facts and my opinions on it. And it doesn't mean that we're going to agree, but at the same time, they'll be able to get a feel of what the game's about and if it's for them. And for that reason alone, it is the best way for viewers to see content. It's completely on their terms, it's on their time, and it's their choice, isn't it? So that's the best way.
All right, good argument. Let me throw it to Brendan then, and ask why is he writes for Massively Massively Overpowered. Holy cow! and so why is the written word the best way to effectively reach the MMO audience?
Oh, yeah. Well, I think for my particular type of content, I've been primarily writing about EVE Online for the past 7 years now, and when we're writing about a long-term game like an MMO, something that people have invested a lot of time in, and they're looking for less reviews and more like guides or up-to-date news. I think the written word offers the same kind of, you can look it up at any time if it's a guide, same kind of things as video. You can also throw in links to further reading, to other videos, a lot easier than I think you can do with a video. And you can again still take it at your own pace and everything. There's also the benefit of, your articles end up archived online with a date stamp beside them. They're like a snapshot in time. So there's loads of things, for example, that we may have written about that are no longer true, or guides that are obsolete. But you can look back at it and say, well, this is the way say EVE Online. This is the way EVE Online was perceived in 2008. And I think it's useful as the genre gets older that we have a kind of almost historical context to be able to go back and see this is how things were and how they've progressed. And I don't know about for every site, but I know for Massively and Massively Overpowered now, the comments are, I know a lot of people say don't read the comments, but for us the comments become part of the content because we do have some amazing discussions. In fact, our old site, having been all ported over now, it's under Engadget, and we've lost all of our comments, and I think that's an absolute travesty because we had some say, like, we had a lot of soapbox articles and opinion pieces that they're now, I mean, the majority of that was like, let's start a discussion about something, and that discussion's now gone. But for the majority of content on the internet, I think the comments form part of a discussion that tells you what people were thinking at a particular time. And just for having like a snapshot in time, I think the written word is like a really powerful tool online.
All right, let me throw it to Red, who actually does Twitch streaming. And why is the Twitch stream the best way to reach an audience?
Well, after you've seen somebody do a review in a YouTube video or read a review or gotten a feeling for it, I can show it to you. In particular, I love being able to do it live. You can have direct interaction with me. I am constantly 100% engaged with my chat room, even in the middle of boss fights, PvP matches. I'm always open and available. If it's not a scheduled, group event, I am engaged with my chat room and doing things that they would like or showing them in-game. Okay, well, I've seen this snapshot on this website. Or, I saw them do their little pan around image viewing moment on a YouTube clip, but can you show me how it actually works, where the sounds are, what it's like when you mount and dismount, or, as you switch your gears, or the new outfit designer, say, that gets added to a game, how exactly does that really work? Is it anything special? And particularly because I am massively opinionated, and it is totally...
That's not
totally
pandering
impossible.
or anything. That's not pandering at all.
Brown nosing.
It may be totally impossible to be objective. I get to show people and they can come in and ask about it, and I can show them right then and there. And fortunately, I've been blessed enough to have access to virtually all of the content. There is some of the most end game content I haven't quite cleared yet, but the other thing is, too, I just like being able to engage and have a dynamic conversation with the people that like what I'm doing. I like that they get to be a part of it. And I also like that I get to reach out to other streamers, and we've started doing even cross-streams, conversations amongst ourselves, the things that we're seeing from the people within our own communities, discussing our opinions on changes within the game, what might be coming, what might not be coming, what are philosophical differences. We aren't putting out a standalone podcast or a regular YouTube video. Instead, you get to come in, you get to engage, and it's always going to be current and in the moment, and it's not what, it's our thoughts and the thoughts of the people viewing us in that moment. And if you really want it, there are highlights for key, exciting, crazy moments, but otherwise it's all live and all current, and you never have to question its relevance.
So so there's two things that I want to hit on. I want to hit on the two guys that do video first, because I think that there is there's definitely a difference between you guys, and I like the differences here, and I think that they're very relevant, and I think we can come up with an answer to the question of who wins out of the videos. However, that doesn't take Brendan out of the race, because I definitely want to. It doesn't. No, it honestly doesn't. But because these two are so close to each other, I want to get some solid differentiation between the two. So what is I'm going to go to Cosmic here real quick and ask, and then I'll get Red's rebuttal regarding it. And feel free to interrupt him at any time, Red, but don't take over the conversation. So what do you feel, Cosmic, is the major difference that you're able to deliver through edited content through YouTube or whatever your reviews or whatever, that you deliver better than through what people can do on Twitch TV or things like
I
that?
think it's a higher standard of quality. I have the time to think about what I film, put more energy into it, because if you're live streaming, you've got so many things to think about all at once, and you're trying to deliver a quality stream but interact at the same time, whereas I can solely focus on the content and what I want to show people. And like you said, like the others have said, ultimately, I would say that YouTube does everything that you can do in a stream, bar the actual live section. I can interact with my audience in the comment section. I can, even like Brendan said, they were talking about timestamps. YouTube videos are timestamped, as well as, talk about long discussions in the comments. We get to do that. And it's ultimately, especially, Brendan touched on guides. What better guide is there to show what you're doing? Like, say, take for an MMO, if you're doing raid bosses, what better way is there to listen to someone tell you how it's done and then show you how it's done? There is no better way than that. And you talk in Twitch and written word, often they link to videos. I mean, Twitch streams all the time. Twitch streams all the time. They take their video of the live stream and upload it to YouTube.
True, very true. Red, what is your what does live streams have directly to offer over YouTube? Like edited videos, let's say edited videos, because
I was just going to say unedited content, raw and real, not crafted by anybody and not influenced by anything other than the gameplay that actually happens.
Well, would you say? I don't want to give Cosmic make his argument for him, but it is a question.
And quite simply, yes, I can also contribute to YouTube if I so choose.
Well, here, you said that it's raw kind of, but is that not delivered via YouTube as well? I mean,
and I can also do raw content. I just film it and then upload it. I mean, I could just sit in front of a game, turn on record, and just go, and then go, right, that's 30 minutes of raw footage, unedited, whack it on YouTube.
Yeah, well, I mean, exactly. because honestly, that's. I know Cosmic doesn't do this with his stuff, but like Total Biscuit and some of these other guys, that's kind of what they do. Is they just pretty much turn on the game and just talk over top of it, or they take footage from a particular game and they talk right on top of that. what does Twitch then offer above that? Is really
Twitch provides something that is just, I mean, quite frankly, they're just different approaches, entirely different approaches. And what I'm bringing, it allows me to bring me personally. Yes, it is very hard to multitask. It is very hard to make sure that you're engaging your chat room. It is very hard to be playing on a high skill level while also monitoring all of that information. And you know, this is why you have moderators that also moderate your chat, and you want to cultivate. It's a much more dynamic and time-consuming process to cultivate a live community that you can't really do anything about other than engage it in the moment. And that's a challenge. And quite frankly, this is why not everybody should stream. But for the same reasons, not everybody should do YouTube videos. There are talent sets that each of us have, and this allows me to express my opinions, my personality. I'm not a reporter by any stretch of the imagination. I am more of an entertainment character, or caricature even. You know, who I actually am and what I present on my stream are not the same thing, but people come to view it.
No, I've seen you in person. No, you're absolutely the same thing.
See, there's no deceit in me.
Okay, so Brendan, you've heard both of their arguments regarding video content. And you brought up some really awesome points in your initial argument. Now, what does the written word offer over their arguments that they just presented?
I guess I can kind of cheat here and say that, you know, in a written article we can put in videos and we can put in your Twitch stream and essentially you can conglomerate a lot of content together in one place. I think the main thing is links to further reading is really important. So, I mean, if we're writing, say, a guide on something, we don't necessarily need to have the most exhaustive guide, as long as we link to more exhaustive guides on particular parts. Say there's guides on particular bosses or something. We can embed a video in there, or a link to someone else's guide that's really, really good on it. And it's not a negative thing to be sending your users to someone else. It's just, it makes your guide like the one-stop shop for this information, kind of.
All right, I want to throw something towards Cosmic here real quick that Brendan had brought up in previously. I don't know, he kind of brought it up peripherally, but it was in there. The idea that you can go back into a written guide and look at certain sections of it and go, oh, well, okay, that's all I need was just this part right here. He mentioned that initially. How can you top that? Because, I mean, if it's a guide or something, or even a review for that matter, how do you top that with video?
In terms of going back and editing.
Well, no. Well, okay. So as a viewer of, okay. So if I'm viewing one of your reviews, for instance, don't give him any fuel. That's not how this works. But at any rate, I just wanted to address that issue. Is that with the written review of some sort, or you know, whatever it happens to be, but let's go with review, since that's what you do. If I wanted to hear or if I wanted to see just a certain part of Brendan's review of something, I can just look on the page and there it is. Mm-hmm. Is there something that you're doing, or is there something that is done regularly that
something that other reviewers do is I don't personally, I like to have a continuous flow. I like to do it my style. Other reviewers on YouTube do it more like written reviewers do, where they segment like gameplay and sound and graphics, and often they actually tag it in the YouTube video, so you can just click the tag and go to the minute where that section starts. So that is possible. It's not something I do particularly, because I like people to watch the whole video because I made it, and that's the way it should be. But if people want to pick out specific segments, there are reviewers on YouTube who do that.
Okay.
You can do that, but obviously it's easier to search in a written article, and you'll come up more on Google.
Oh my gosh! Good. Oh man, that's a good one. What do you say to that?
Well, Google's changing to include more videos, so I don't know. What do you want to do?
I don't know. I don't know.
Well, that's what even on Twitch for my live streams when I make my highlights, even if I don't export it to YouTube or whatever, that's what hashtags are. That's what show notes are for.
Right.
That's what all of that information is for, is so that it can be found and found relevant.
So, man, you guys, this is all okay. So my understanding of everything, and this is based on your guys' arguments. I guess this is gonna. I don't know if I'm going to be able to. I might just give it a point to all three of you because it's so diverse. But it is true. Okay, so given that even if you put hashtags or whatever, or you put show notes and whatnot in a video, whether it's a Twitch video or whether it's a pre-recorded video, if there is a certain phrase or something that stood out to you as a viewer and you wanted to go back and try to get it, you can't do that, but you can with the written word.
You can with YouTube.
If you said something in your video, if you said one phrase and you didn't include that in your notes, I couldn't go back and search that, could I?
Probably not.
Yeah.
Yeah, but you know what? With Google Voice nowadays, or voice transcription.
Well, that's I was going to say that's true actually.
That's good.
That is true. Like a lot of videos on YouTube now, and YouTube advises you to transcribe your videos and upload a transcription.
Especially so that you can have.
Are they? But are they?
And everything, and that's all searchable.
And it's specifically to do it for SEO purposes.
Yeah, it does go into the search results and everything. I've seen videos pop up specifically because of phrases I've searched.
And you just gave him you might have just cost yourself the point there, Brendan.
I'd rather correct the points.
Oh, okay.
Are we allowed to give our opinions afterwards?
So I'm actually gonna I'm gonna have to only although I like the idea that with Twitch that it's like instant, it's just over in your channel. The problem that I have with Twitch videos is there isn't really that kind of transcription going on with Twitch videos alone. You'd have to take that Twitch video and then do something else with it in order to upgrade it or whatever you want to call it. So I have to, unfortunately, not give the point to Twitch. And it was really
well, are we talking about storing material for later reference, or are we talking about the content that we create? Because the content that I create is not designed to be
exactly. And one of the things that
entertainment faction, he's a reviewer, and the other is writing guides and
at the same time,
what I'm creating has nothing to do with. Go ahead.
At the same time, though, you did say
find it because that's not what it's for.
You did say that you give your opinion and you can show these things to your audience, so it's pretty much the same thing that a reviewer does, and just in a slightly different fashion.
I would definitely much more say that I'm an entertainer.
But I don't think that Cosmic or Brendan would not call themselves entertainers, because ultimately it is about being able to entertain in some form or fashion an audience. I mean,
true, but they are also under an obligation to generate a certain degree of respect within their own communities so that they can be trusted. I don't need to do that because my opinions are purely that.
I don't know. I kind of disagree with that one.
I disagree with that. I think because you also have to, even as an entertainment entity, you also have to maintain a certain respect with your audience,
for my audience, yes. But I'm directly interacting with them during the live experience.
I think we're basically
because they're seeing everything that I'm doing and hearing everything that's coming out, whereas yours needs to be a trust that is built over time and held accountable to past references and everything.
Because your work is live, it bypasses trust. they can see everything raw. They know exactly what's happening.
Exactly. They can see
know where it's
my
all coming
facial
from.
features. They can judge me in that very moment.
I get what you're saying, but I don't think that gives you.
Well,
any
I think
I
it's
say- I
really
definitely
useful
say-
to have a reference.
I say what you're saying to a certain point, but at the same time, just because someone's live doesn't mean they're being truthful.
Absolutely not. That's what entertainment is. You don't need to be truthful. You need to be entertaining. You need to essentially, in a way, pander to your audience and give them what they want to see that they find entertaining.
I think that I think there's a certain amount
the
of
trust that they have in me is that I'm going to give them a consistent viewing experience, and they're going to come back and they know that they're going to see me again. So they're seeing that personality and the form of entertainment I bring. And from day to day, I am that same entertainer. That's the trust they have. And then they decide whether or not they trust my opinion from watching me and what I see and what I show them. They can make their own judgments and totally disagree with me and tell it to my face. And I embed my chat into my video logs so that anybody that ever watches it is able to see that other people disagree with me, and I don't disrespect that. I appreciate that people disagree with me because oftentimes I am wrong.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm
YouTube
happy
does the
to
same
we all
thing.
do the same.
Yeah.
We
Yeah.
do
Oh, right.
the same
But
opinion
that's also the
pieces and
advantage.
Reviews are
Well, you're absolutely
opinion-based.
right, and you do get your comment system, and you do get to.
I don't
or whatever.
I don't think
get to
I don't think that
live
there
say,
is.
Oh my gosh, you're right. You've just blown my mind in this very moment. Thank you. This conversation that is now recorded on video for all time. The world gets to see that you in my chat room were right and I was wrong, and I don't have to recant anything because you just showed me I was wrong.
I still don't think there's a whole lot of difference there.
Okay.
It's I mean, honestly, when it comes down to it,
I think it's just a fundamentally different content.
I do. It is a different content. It is a different way of delivering that content, and it's a different kind of reaction that you get from your audience. But I think that all three of you get different kinds of reactions from your audiences, and although it's not in the same way, but it is.
Yeah, it's just facilitated.
Yeah, exactly. It's almost semantical difference, not exactly semantical, but you understand what I mean.
Well, and it's the key reason why I do like streaming is
Right.
that I actually literally in the moment have a conversation with someone. I don't have to wait for comments.
I do think though that it's tough to choose between the written word and Cosmic's reviews and those kinds of things. And the biggest stickler for me, because all things being created equal, if you will, you guys are pretty similar. Not just but all three of you. And
All right, before you make your judgment, I have one last thing to say.
go ahead.
Okay? You've got the written word, which is the old vanguard. And it certainly has its place. Books will never stop being printed. But when it comes to consuming content, the viewers today and the upcoming youth, they like a visual medium right now. It is definitely the direction that most people go unless they're really hardcore and they want to go and look at the nuance and visually see the text on the page. They like that video content.
Do
so
you
that's
have?
the two of us.
Do you have?
And then
Do you have it? Do you have any? Hold on.
Sports or a pre-recorded show?
So, do you have any? Is there any evidence, actual evidence of that? Because I honestly disagree with that. I disagree with that because
amount of hundreds of thousands that they have watching Twitch every single day.
Yes,
YouTube
but
is where most kids 18 to 27 are consuming content.
Hold on.
And
however,
which is the one that's growing behind.
However, there is.
I would argue about the age range because my entire audience, 95% of them are aged between 18 and 45.
Yes, I would agree with that.
While there's YouTubers like PewDiePie who have 30 million subscribers who probably are all under the age of 16. I would argue that, to be honest, even this probably hurts my argument a little bit, but I would argue that whether it's YouTube, written word, or Twitch, they are actually quite well, woven together. Like you say, written word often links to YouTube videos, but YouTube videos and YouTubers often live stream on Twitch, and vice versa. I don't think that the audience specifically goes, I only watch YouTube or I only read articles. I think.
Okay, I want Larry's judgment, and then I'll respond.
Okay, I'm going to, and the only reason that I'm doing this is because of if it is transcripted in some way, then YouTube wins out over written word. But that is the only reason why. That is the only. If it's not transcripted, go to written word. That's what I'm saying.
Frank will take it.
All right, point to Cosmic on that one. You go ahead, Red. What were you going to say?
Oh, it's just that. Okay, I don't watch YouTube videos. Frankly, I could care less. And when you talk about guides and everything like that, I don't care about YouTube videos.
Wait a second. Hold on.
I go to the written word. This is my own personal opinion, the way that I consume the internet. I go to the written word.
And I'll be honest. That is the bigger way that I do it too.
But this is more a question of how you learn. Some people visually learn by watching other people do it better than reading it in the written word. And that's once I read it, I retain 95% of it.
Right. That's why I said transcription is. I mean, if it wasn't for YouTube transcription, I think that it is extremely difficult to try to find something within a given. Specifically when dealing with guides and how and those kinds of things, something that you have to refer back to. It's if you're looking for, or like I cannot stand lessons on how to do something on YouTube unless it's something that's like 2 minutes long. If it's an extended lesson of any type, and it's extremely difficult because it's hard to reference back.
But again, it's one of those things that different content creators on YouTube have different formats and different styles.
Absolutely.
And it's one of those things that YouTube, as a place for content creators, is so diverse.
Yeah.
It's ridiculously diverse. So it just depends on what you like.
Blogger, what you call a blogger and what they actually are writing about. I mean, not even what they write about, but how they write. You know, and are you a news site? Do you have any clout? Are you just some dude ranting and raving?
Because I mean,
with YouTube,
that's actually a really good point as well. But because people do, for example, someone does a really good video, and the content isn't just in the video; it's in all the places that the video is put. So if someone does a blog that wants to talk about a particular thing, they will point to a certain point in the video, or point to the video and say, at 3 minutes in, this happens, or whatever. And a lot of articles that literally are just conglomerating videos. That might be a point for the written word, but to be honest, they wouldn't exist without the videos, and the videos are the core content there.
Yeah, I think, like I said, it's just we're dealing with minutia really when it comes down to it, and the minutia that put pre-recorded videos over the edge is transcription, which might be cheating just a little bit because technically it's written word, right? But anyway.
Well, I do find it ironic that you think that because YouTube can incorporate written, then it trumps, which means that if it didn't, then written trumps. You're saying that written trumps, in your opinion, period.
No. Okay, so what I'm talking about is being able to go back and research it, whereas Twitch by its core,
by its definition, is not go back and research.
Yeah, is not go back and research, and that's really what it boils down to. And I do think that's what you're looking for
for a content creator. You're searching for somebody that can be gone back and seen, and that's not what I'm providing.
Well, right. Well, I think. I mean, you personally do something different, but as Twitch in general, if somebody were to do a guide on Twitch and Twitch alone, it would be really, really tough.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, that's. But
really, I mean, but
it's the variety. It's the variety.
Guides and content because I'm not doing guides.
Yeah.
Well, it's a variety
of
content.
It's the breadth of variety, isn't it? It's about what medium encompasses the most diverse.
Yeah.
Without sacrificing. As much as possible. And I think YouTube does that.
There are things that you just can't do on Twitch.
Yeah.
And there's things that you just can't do in the written word as well, I guess, that you can do in video.
Right. That's
So I get
that's kind of what it boils down to. So
and
question
vice versa.
question 2. Let's moving on. Question 2. So one of the things that has been a concern to me actually, because I actually have a smaller guild. I think we have less than 20 people at the time, but I see certain content going in MMOs towards bigger guilds, and how and they just kind of eat up the smaller guilds, and then there's certain things where the smaller guilds are doing things better or having more fun or those kinds of things. So I asked our panelists here what size of guild they thought was the best, and I asked them to give me a number. Some of them gave me a range. I'm going to have to narrow them down to a number, or like a max number or an optimal number. And so I'm going to go to Brendan first and ask him, what is the optimal size of guild for you? What works the best?
Okay, I was one of the ones who gave a range, so I'm gonna narrow this down. I'm gonna say 10, about 10 people. And my reason is that I've been part of groups of all sizes in lots of MMOs, and I've been in charge of groups of different sizes and guilds of different sizes in various MMOs. And something that I find is pretty universal, and people blame Eve for having this kind of mentality, but it is universal across MMOs, that once a guild gets large, it becomes work. You invariably have to delegate some certain responsibilities to officers, and then have people like on schedules. You have to turn up for your raid at this time, or you lose your slot, and we have point systems and all sorts of things like that. And it literally just becomes too much work for someone to organize. And although historically there have been some large guilds that were actually like the person's main job, and there's a couple of EVE Online alliances that have essentially someone's making a living out of it. It's not the usual case. And you don't want an MMO to become your day job. And the other thing is, the larger it gets, the more conflicting interests you're going to have. So I think 10 is just about the right number, where you can do all the content in most MMOs with that group, but not so large that you start getting people start becoming anonymous, and it becomes a lot of work to organize.
All right, excellent answer. I'm going to give it to Red. Red, what is the optimal size that you think a guild should be?
I don't think there is one. There's way too many different people in the world, and what they're looking for from a guild is dramatically different, and what people want to do in a guild is dramatically different. There are people that love to organize and have more than 10 people in there, and they will volunteer in a heartbeat. And they like to go on their little power trip, and I can ignore every one of them, you know? I am not a guild leader. I have been an officer and never want to do it again. Because I don't want that responsibility. I just want a group that I can connect with. And I want to make sure that enough people are online when I play to do whatever content I want to do.
So I can get a range that might be different. How many is that? How many people is that?
For Star Wars The Old Republic, obviously that's my primary game.
Sure.
The largest groups that you can do anything with are 16. So I want to know that there's 16 people online during my primary playing hours, which probably means actual physical people within the guild, like active playing during the week, right?
Yeah.
50?
All right.
But all I really want to see online at any given time is around 18 to 21. So what I physically see is 18 to 21.
Okay.
And I want to see that half of those people are getting onto voice. I like to talk to people. I don't want to type to them. Ironically, when it comes to in-game, I hate the written word. I turn off general chat. I ignore guild chat, you know.
I don't think that's ironic. I think that's perfectly appropriate. But
you know, and for my stream, I totally covered up with my big honking head. So So if I go for that, but I did want to say, because I thought about this a lot.
Yeah.
This is a totally opinionated piece, and it totally depends entirely on your goals. If you're concerned with PvE group content, or just PvE leveling and story, or PvP, and for my game that happens to also include, space combat. You have to be in a space combat guild if you want to play with others that are doing space combat, and it's going to be a small group because it's not a primary part of the game. If you just want to be in a social guild, some people just want to get in. Like, they like to chill out in general chat. They want to be in a guild that there's just a swarm of humanity, and they get to kind of lurk and watch what people are talking about.
Yeah.
Or they want to meet people. They don't even care about particularly defeating the content within the game. They just want to be able to play something while they hang out with others. Or conquests, which I don't know what other MMOs have done similar to conquests, but the fact that you need a larger guild in order to take over planets and hold them for the week, these sorts of things.
Well, I think
to the tolerance level that you have of other people and their behaviors, because the larger the guild you get, the more you're going to have to learn to put up with racism, sexism, foul-mouthed language, trollish behaviors, aggressive people, awkward individuals, nerdy humor, whatever, it's just like everything and anything. And then, even when you're talking about size, you also got to consider the philosophy of the guild itself and how it's being run in those leaders.
Well,
and how you
did mention actually one of the things that brought up this whole debate in the first place was that games tend to gear towards the larger guild, and one of the reasons why I'd like to bring this up in debate, especially amongst you guys, having played a plethora of different kinds of games and different experiences regarding it, is to maybe developers will kind of see this kind of thing and see that, you know what, we can't just cater to the large guilds, which a lot of developers, especially we've seen it in Star Wars: The Old Republic, we've seen it in Eve, we've seen it in we see it in the upcoming games like Crowfall, that kind of that seem to gear towards the larger, more work-oriented guilds. And so that's why I wanted to bring this up to debate, is this important? Is it important to be a part of a big guild, or is it better to be a part of a smaller one? And what is that optimal size? And so I'm going to give it over to Cosmic now. What is the optimal size, do you think, for a guild?
I think, for me, I thought about this quite long and hard from both experience and trying to think of what the best number was to provide the optimal experience for someone who wants to do everything. Just say who wants to do a bit of PvP, do a bit of PvE and everything like that. And my number would be 30. And the reason I say 30 is because it's large enough for you to organize a raid, to do high-level PvE stuff. So, it doesn't have to be, I disagree that, just because someone wants to do PvE, a raid on a Thursday night, they jump on and they should expect to see everyone online to be that. I think that at the end of the day, as a guild, you can organize that. You say, well, Friday night, raid night, everyone come on, let's do that, right? But then 30 is small enough to be able to get to know everyone and not have, because like everyone said, you get to a certain point where bigger guilds, they become messes. They become destructive. It becomes drama. It becomes work. It's not fun. And I think if you keep it at like a number like 30, there's enough people to have enough diversity in there, especially because I used to be a role player. So we like to have diversity in terms of the content of what role players provide. So there's enough people to do that with. And you've got enough people to PvE, PvP, and everything like that, but without the added drama of high number guilds where it's just a mess. And I often find that the high number guilds I have been in, even though there's so many players, trying to organize something is ridiculously difficult. Trying to get a raid group going, ridiculously difficult. And I think that if you get to know 30-odd people, you're all committed to the game, you schedule stuff, say, let's do PvE on Friday and PvP on Saturday. You've got that going, it's easy to do, and I think that provides the optimal MMO experience for being able to have access to all the content and provide a good social aspect.
And I think that's probably why I went with 50, because within Star Wars: The Old Republic, in order to be successful in the conquests, you have to have a larger number of people playing over an entire week's period in order to win that content, and there are titles and rewards that come with it, and I want them, and I want to be able to be a part of everybody. Now, it took me a really long time to find the guild that I am in, and it does fit this bill. But end of day, do I know 30 people in that guild? Hell no. I probably know 16, frankly, by name, by voice, but that's because I don't need to be an officer. I don't need to do that. And also, the other reason I really like to have just a little bit more than 30 is because it our game has more too, right? Because of the GSF bent, which is pretty unique, because of the money banks and the cartel market and, building, and then you got those 18 different professions, and, I'm the guy that provides stims, med packs, and whatever to everybody, and we are probably tremendously communist in our group. We don't have any I don't see any drama in my guild. It blows my mind, right? But we've got 50 active. I mean, signed into the guild, it's much more than that, but there's not more than 50 that
I
are
think that's
actually
pretty
playing.
rare, though.
Yeah,
I was quite frank to be blown away that I was the high number in this conversation. I'm playing the full content on both sides, both factions.
Well, here's a question. Go ahead.
I'm going to go either way. I was going to say either, very, very small, because then you can know everyone in the guild, and it's it's a more personal experience, or absolutely massive so that you can completely dominate the game, which is what happens in EVE. Although I think having a small corp in EVE is different than having a small guild in other games, because corps in EVE are conglomerated into alliances, and you can still get an awful lot. It's not like World of Warcraft where you need 10 people to do a 10-man raid. You can just get 3 or 4 of your buddies and go on a PvP room in the middle of low-sec and get some nice kills.
But don't most MMOs actually require you at least have 10 people to put on the name so that you can start the guild in the first place?
No, I think that's just.
I think it does depend on the MMO.
Yeah.
But it's also like Larry said, developers have a tendency to cater to large guilds, which I always find a bit silly, because usually big guilds that are traditionally, the world first PvE guilds and stuff like that, they all try. They migrate fast. They leave. They come into a game, blitz the content, and go. It is the smaller guilds, it's the role-playing community, it's the more casual guilds, it's those who stay after everyone else has gone.
Yeah, and I'm going to be in this because it's Star Wars until the lights are off.
Exactly.
For me, guilds and corps and whatever they're called in whatever games, they're literally just ways to get they're ways to get people to kind of hang around in a game after maybe they've done all the content they want to do. All your friends are in the game, so you want to keep doing stuff.
I think that's true, but I often find, in my experience, that guilds as a whole tend to migrate at the same time. It kind of, in my experience, it kind of goes, everyone kind of gets fed up with the game at the same time. They're like, should we all look for something else to play? Because they want to stay with the same people. But they've had enough of that.
We had a World of Warcraft guild that we all pretty much just quit at the same time. Just one person quit, and then, we're all really good friends. So we're like, it's not the same without him, it's not the same without this guy. And we all just quit, and we ended up just a load of us are now in Guild Wars 2. Just so that we can play together.
Mm-hmm. And I'm just sitting here chuckling inside because returning to question number 1. But I never played video games with anybody but my friends in real life until I started streaming. And now, sometimes, even when my friends aren't available, I'm incentivized to actually play and have a blast because I have a chat room.
Too late. Frank got the point. It's too late. just deal with it.
All right. So I do want to differentiate between Brendan and Cosmic here with 10 and 30, because I think there is a clear distinction between those two numbers, and they're both considered small, which is a little bit surprising to me. That when 30, actually 50, I guess, is considered small in our game. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So, but what I'm interested in knowing is why, what differentiates a 30-person guild from a 10-person guild? What can a 10-person guild do that a 30-person guild can't? I'm going to throw it to Brendan first here. So what can a 10-person guild do that a 30-person guild cannot?
I think the main thing is that even with 30 people, it is very hard to have a personal friendship with 30 separate people online. And you're going to have a lot more, drama and rivalries will pop up the more people you have. It's also a little bit more work. If you have 30 people, you are going to need things like officers and stuff. Even the smaller guilds on the side of like 20 to 50 that I've run have needed an awful lot of work to keep going. With 10 people, you can basically have like you can really know everyone in the guild, and it's like your best mates. And yeah, you might not be able to get a 10-man group going, but not every game does 10-man. 5-man's becoming more popular. So games like Guild Wars 2 does in a whole load of 5-man instances. EVE Online's my primary game, and it has basically no minimum or maximum cap for any gameplay. And it being a single short game, you're never like short of other people to join up with either.
Cosmic, go ahead. Why is 30 more effective than 10?
Well, ultimately, I just think that 10's too small. I mean, yes, you can cultivate closer friendships, but ultimately, the reason that I came up with 30 was to make sure that you're not blocking off content. At 10, and for a generalized MMO, not just talking like specifics in general, you will end up in a lot of games not being able to access certain content, like high-end raids, like Star Wars: Old Republic, 60-man raids, you just wouldn't be able to do it. Whereas 30 provides you enough people, even if one person drops out, you've still got some people to come in. It doesn't block off anything. You would be able to have access to all of the content, and I think that overall is the best thing.
I think that my main point was that you should have enough people to do the guts of the content. I think it's just that we come from different gaming kind of backgrounds, and when I said 10 people, I was more thinking like 10 active people that you could maybe like. You could possibly get a 10-man raid going, because we did actually in World of Warcraft. We had about, I think it was 11 or 12 people in the guild total, and we had no problem getting our 10-man raids going. That's because we're all like really good mates in real life as well.
I mean, you could, but what my argument is to say, you would still possibly, in some games, you would still possibly limit yourself in terms of numbers for certain content, and ultimately. Yeah. If you to go and join a guild, I want, if I go and play an MMO, I do want to do everything in that MMO. I would at least want to try everything once.
Yeah, I'm an achievement addict and a consumption addict.
Right, so at least 30 gives you the opportunity to do that.
Well, what I would rather do in an MMO is have 3 or 4, even if it's only 3 or 4 of my closest buddies online, or people that I know in real life, which is going to be a limited number of people in the MMO to begin with. So I'd rather have 3 or 4 of those guys, and then we go and join another group.
But you could have that in a 30 guild. For example, you don't have to have like 30 best friends. But what I'm saying is, it allows you to have the access to the content, but you can still have a closer group within the guild of 4 or 5 friends, right? But at least with the 30, at least with the guild that size, you could then have people on hand to help you with other stuff.
No, keep going. This was great.
I'm done.
That does incentivize like groups creating like cliques within a guild, and that just leads to drama.
Well, I don't think that's true though, because ultimately, the nature of people is some people get along better with other people. It doesn't necessarily have to cause drama.
Well, and what I was going to say is, if I've got the bigger number, why do you say it incentivizes? It does not incentivize bad behavior. Rock comes from the top.
I think the social nature of MMOs is that you're going to get bad people eventually. Yeah. Whether it's in your guild or not.
The more popular the game is, the more horrible some of those participants will be.
At the end of the day, though, it's even in a 30-man guild, you're always going to get along with some people better than others. But it's about maturity and respect. Exactly. Some people don't have that. But if you get in a decent guild, and it's ultimately, like I advise anyone who's never played an MMO before, choose your guild carefully, research them, ask around. Because
play with them and go from guild to guild to guild till you find one that fits.
You're always going to. You can never stop bad people from playing an MMO. It's never going to happen. But ultimately, 30 people will ensure that you have access to all the content, and you will. It doesn't exclude close friendships with other players.
I do have one question for Red here regarding because you said you're not a guild leader for a really good reason because of the work and stuff. Since you brought that up, and since you're not, and unfortunately, I don't think I'm going to be able to go with 50, just because it is a lot of work. It almost becomes a second job for certain people once you hit the level 50.
Then let me defend my 50. First of all, that's actually 2 guilds because it's on 2 factions and you can't do cross-faction guild.
But it's one guild. It's one team speak.
You've got different leaders between them. Yeah, and I've never seen any conflict ever arise on The Voice, ever. And the difference between 30 and 50 is that, 30 ensures that you've got enough bodies that will probably be able to be present or swap in for somebody who's on vacation or sick or whatever. 50 actually enables those same leaders, rather than incentivizing bad behavior, to have a bit more of a culture that is in the group and a philosophy that is in the group. That, yes, you're not all the best of friends, but you realize that you all get along with one another and work well together and synergize with one another so that whenever you need somebody to step in, you know exactly what you're getting. It also guarantees that you have everybody available for all of the content when you want it. When you need to have 8 people for GSF, 8 people for PvP, or 4 people for rank PvP, or 16 people for operations, or, this, that, the other. It's the breadth of content, and because I want to be number one.
Well, okay, so I want to just drop in content, though. You're talking about just ensure. You're saying it ensures that you can do everything, but you're talking like you said in the first place. You talk about when I get online, right? But the nature of guilds is usually organizational, so it's not a problem.
Right, because we all play at the same time.
Well, okay, so
we don't organize around that we play at that time. It's just I get on at lunch and play often enough, and there are 6 people on. That doesn't bother me because when I actually play and dedicate time to the game more than an hour, there's always the number I need.
I'm actually, and the reason I wasn't dismissing 50, by the way, I'm actually I'm leaning towards 50, and the reason, but what I want to get at is at what point does it become work, and is that really a negative towards towards building a community?
Okay, for me, when does it become work? For me personally, since I no longer want to be an officer, sure, I can tell you it becomes work when they give me the responsibility to punish people.
Well,
but there are other people that love doing that.
Okay.
I don't mind calling somebody out, but I don't want to have to worry about kicking people. I don't mind telling somebody I think they've done something wrong, but it makes me feel bad when I'm the one that has to do the banhammer. That interferes with me just playing the game. But there, 50 I like because, and that's the thing, you got to get the culture. But then I don't think it's work for those people that enjoy it. In particular, you get a good guild leader. He's not actually working. He's just inspiring and engendering friendliness amongst the members. He's like our guild leader. I've never heard him be authoritative at all. He just the most work he has is that he's sitting at work and he can't be online, but he hops and mumbles and jumps from channel to channel and just asks how people are doing. Everything all right? So
I have to think about when judging this on a personal note, and even though I'm not going to subject necessarily my personal experiences in this, but rather based on what you guys are arguing. And one of the things that keeps getting that's kind of brought up and that got me thinking of, okay, if I were to see a 10-person guild versus a 30-person guild versus a 50-person guild, and I knew nothing of any of them, and it's just based on this and just based on the content that I know that I want to do, unfortunately, I'm going to have to side with the 50 because I know that
when you log in, you at least see a number.
I know that I will see people on. I know that I'll see them on regularly. I don't have to work my schedule in with theirs, which is I understand that being from a guild that's like 20 people.
Yeah, as a leader, it might be organizationally hellish, but as a member, it is much easier.
So I'm gonna, as much as I hate to, because my guild isn't 50, and I know there's a lot of cool things that you can do with smaller guilds, and I'm kind of, I'm hesitant to give the point because I don't want to see bigger guilds get more press time or whatever. Love
30's
and
the best of both. Then
I'm still gonna have
said 3,000.
3,000.
Again, this is why I say I'm genuinely shocked that I was the high number at 50.
Yeah. Oh, so
But I would never want to be above that.
Yeah.
I will totally agree that I think that too big is too big.
No, I would have totally gone for something big, being the Eve player, but honestly, I've been in big alliances, and they're awful. Absolutely awful. I would much prefer to have a small group.
I do think there is a threshold, and it's probably right around 50, where it just becomes unbearable. It is, but I don't think. I think it's right around 50 because.
Yeah.
Ironically, that's why I guess maybe you chose 30 because you felt like that was the sweet spot, whereas for me, 50 was. I wouldn't want to go above that, but I do like having a few more warm bodies around. And I am picky enough about my guild that if I come across 2 or more people that I find absolutely toxic and unbearable, I will leave that guild. I'll go find another one.
Yeah, that's true. Same.
All right, so
I'll give them their one because I can put them on mute on voice.
All right, so next question 3.
Wait, does that mean I got the point?
You got the point. Yes, Redna got the point. Yeah. All right. So question 3 is we had a fun question here because all these guys, at least with the name Cosmic Engine, you would think that sci-fi is a pretty big genre for each one of these guys here because we have Eve, we have Star Wars: The Old Republic, and Cosmic Engine, who I know plays Star Wars: The Old Republic as well as many other games out there. And so what I asked, because Guild is kind of antiquated and definitely more of a thing that you'd find in fantasy games, what is the most appropriate name to give a sci-fi guild? And I'm going to throw this one to Red first. What is the most appropriate name for a sci-fi guild? Redna, go ahead.
The answer I originally gave you is not actually the one I'm going to go with.
Go ahead.
So basically, because I discussed this with a buddy, and really, I think Union might be the most fitting. My first thought was Clan, and that's because I'm a Star Wars freak fanboy, and I knew there was the banking clan.
Mm-hmm.
And then he mentioned, but there was also some other guild, and we got into this conversation. You could go with fraternity as well, but I decided to go with Union. But the thing is, this is sci-fi. The joy of sci-fi is it is actually more expansive than fantasy. It is more inclusive than fantasy. And if the lore doesn't permit for guilds, then perhaps it could make up a word. I submit Klaxon. And then provide me with some sort of story. Or if you're in a game that doesn't have lore and it's actually like community driven and it's sandbox, then let the community come up with a label.
See, I've seen various not MMOs have made up names as well.
Yeah. I'm going to have to go with Klaxon on this because I'm going to turn this over to Brendan. And Brendan, what did you come up with for an answer?
Well, to be honest, right? Okay, being the Eve player, was one of my first MMOs was Eve, so I kind of got used to the idea of calling them corporations before everything else. When we think about it, that is probably the most sci-fi way to go because it's a bit like an Alien, because we know that, for example, space exploration is pretty expensive, and we know that the first groups that put a real good stranglehold on things in space will be people who can make a big profit out of it. So it's going to end up, space is going to be explored by large corporations. They're going to put their flag on the moon. They're going to put their flag on Mars. They're going to claim all the asteroid belts. So it kind of makes sense that this kind of dystopian future will be owned by corporations. But as a side note, I would really, really love to see a game actually let us pick a name depending on what type of group we are. So, why should I be running a corporation if I wanted to be, if I wanted to conquer space? Why would I not call myself an empire? EVE Online kind of because it lets people, alliances make up their own names. A lot of them picked, put alliance at the end of the name, or the such and such consortium, or the such and such empire. and that works. But it would be nice if that was like a mechanic. In the absence of that corporation.
So we'll go with name your own, but I think there are definitely arguments against naming your own. But before we get to that, let me go to Cosmic. And what did you? I'm sorry, I know his answer already, and it's been go ahead.
Now, before you dismiss it, okay, there's logical reasoning behind my answer. So my answer is Plunderbund, right? now,
defend that.
Okay,
I dare you.
A brief definition of Plunderbund is a group which shares business interests, right? Now, the Merriam-Webster dictionary defines it as a league of commercial, political, or financial interests that exploit the public. Now, what's more sci-fi than that? Now, if you've ever been take Eve, if you've ever tried to travel through 0.0 space and you get a guild that comes and just destroys you and takes all your stuff, your hard-earned stuff, do you not feel exploited? Do you not? Plunderbund, right? Plunder, loot, bund, people.
Bund
Telling you,
people. Okay.
it's the future. It's the future. It's great. I mean, and how that will never get old in general chat. And would you like to join my Plunderbund? Come on, space pirate.
That would totally feed the troll.
Right? You can't beat that. It's there. Use it.
What if
Commercial, political, or financial interests.
What if you just want to be peaceful, or you want to make a guild that's just for chat?
Peace
That's not a
Plunderbund.
Plunderbund.
It is. It's still a Plunderbund. It's fine. Plunder. It's not a problem.
All right, so both
Clearly,
of
you're
you-
plundering peace.
You've still got loot mechanics in the game. You're still looting. You're still plundering. You're just plundering NPCs. It's great.
Both of you
Plunderbund.
are basing this off of the premise that somehow industry is what's going to create the sci-fi future. When hello,
Plunderbund
industry and businesses, both corporations.
No,
in
but it
particular,
doesn't
when they
say
get
that,
their
no.
hands on scientific research,
No.
they stifle innovation. They go to a 5-year plan rather than planning for 20 years, and all of a sudden your sci-fi world galaxy does not exist and is not realized.
No, but Plunderbund says it can be commercial, political, or financial. So it doesn't have to be commercial. It could be political. It doesn't matter.
You're also assuming
it's diverse.
Plunderbund
Plunderbund.
about plundering them. You're assuming that the government cannot actually be for the people. You're assuming that the business interests.
Okay, well then, as your guild name, you put not Plunderbund. There you go. Problem solved. Fantastic.
That's my option of being able to pick your own. Sorry.
There you go. Not Plunderbund. It works. It's flexible. It works either way. Fantastic. Plunderbund.
Whereas there is actually a defense for klaxon. Klaxon is the French word for honking your horn. And hello, all we really want is to be able to call ourselves what we want. And so my klaxon gets to say what it wants.
Well, your klaxon can join my Plunderbund.
I can make it aggravating. I can make it insulting. It is my klaxon.
I think we've broken Larry.
I don't even know how to do
Mine's in the dictionary. It's got a good definition. It's diverse. It's perfect. Plunderbund.
Mine is too, and it's not Anglo-centric, you see.
It's not Anglo-centric.
To be fair, he should be disqualified because it's not an actual word.
Klaxon is a word. It's a word out of the French dictionary. English snob.
Well, I am English. I can't help it. You know? We went to war for 100 years. It was fine. Plunderbund. There you go.
Any objection to? I mean, I haven't heard any arguments against Brendan's name your own.
Plunderbund. I object.
Okay, here's my only problem. What is wrong with your sci-fi universe? Like, seriously, I have never felt that Guild is genre-specific. On the galactic scale, ancient and modern labels would likely have value in many aspects of the diverse societies that exist within that galaxy. So, Guild is no problem either. Yeah,
Guild can be an option. Someone might want to.
I debate corporation. Name your group whatever you want. I can actually get behind it.
I would argue as long as there was rules enforced for deflammatory stuff, then name your own. I would agree.
All right, so
There
just
would be,
that
like, a set of names like Alliance and Empire and Corporation and Plunderbund.
I'm telling you,
Plunderbund could be available.
it's coming. Cosmic's Plunderbund. Join for free.
Okay, so what you're gonna do, and the point is gonna go to Brendan because Cosmic can go into Brendan's game and make his Plunderbund. There we go. Point to Brendan. Congratulations.
I observed your answers.
Oh my god. That was amazing. All right. I don't even know if I can get to the last question, but you got all three of you have a single point. So whoever gets this question, gets the point for this question, gets the point for the game. So the last question, as it has been for like the last several episodes, is build your own MMO. But however, this time what I'm asking is ones that focus on content creation and community. So when giving your answers, make sure that that's how you frame it. And so I'm going to, so we went to Cosmic first. We're going to go to Cosmic first this time. So go right ahead.
Okay, so mine would be a dark fantasy MMORPG. And it would be, essentially, it would be built with like 2 continents. So you would have the main quest area that was built by the developers that would have the developer-made towns, quests, everything like that. And then you would have a player continent where basically it would work as the 3 main features of the game would essentially be you would have player-designed towns and fully customizable guild towns. So you would, as a guild, buy a space plot, a town plot, and then you would be able to build all the things. But within that town, you would have player housing that was fully customizable to the player. And then it would almost create, you would have these guild towns that other people that weren't in the guild could come and join. And it would also create their own communities in-game. So you would have the guild almost would act essentially as the town's government by erecting all the facilities, etc., etc. But then players would be able to buy plots within the township. The second main feature of the game would be something of a pet peeve of mine with all MMOs is crafting. And because I never think crafting's deep enough in MMOs at all. And I would like to see fully player designed and created equipment to the point that they could, regularly upload schematics and stuff like that. Almost like a Steam Workshop kind of deal where players could do their own artwork if they wanted, or they can use possibly like thousands selections from the developer. And essentially what you would be able to do is, if you were a blacksmith in a town, you could design your own sword and then patent that design so that only that sword could be made by you and sold by you.
So would you be able to name your sword Plunderbund?
Yeah, you could.
Okay, that's all that's important.
And that, I feel like that, being able to design and create and then patent your own would inspire a true player-run economy. So, for example, you saw they would have like a section, like the player store, where you could see that design, and then that sword is made by that blacksmith on the other end of the player continent. So you would have to travel there and get that. That'd be amazing.
Yeah.
That'd be fantastic. And then probably the third major feature of the game in terms of content would be extensive interactable objects and items. And the reason for this, and this would be both in the player zone and in the developer-made zone, and the reason for this is that a pet peeve of mine, especially as a role player in MMOs, is that I never get to sit on chairs. Chairs are never interactable. Nothing's ever interactable. It drives me crazy. And I feel that to be able to foster immersion, true immersion, as much as possible, as much as you can in an MMO, and to be able to foster good role-playing communities who do statistically spend more time in games than other, non-role players do, and tend to, not leave games until they're done. And they also tend to spend more money in like free-to-play shops and stuff. Really cater to those communities. Allow people to go to the bar and actually pick a mug up, or sit down, or sit at a table, use a bed, all that, as much as you possibly can, to make that world feel as real as possible. And I think that would probably, those three main features would add to that, really try to make it as realistic, immersive, and player-focused as possible. And it would be, obviously, developed by CD Projekt Red, who are the developers of The Witcher, mainly because The Witcher's coming out soon and I'm dead excited, but also because they have a history of high quality. They've got experience creating dark fantasy worlds. They have experience in both developing and distribution. And they tend to be customer friendly. Like, they Witcher 2, they got their downloads. That's my child, just banging on the door. Customer friendly track record in that, like, they give DLC for free. Like, one of the heads of the actual developer said that, it doesn't take that long to create a suit of armor, so why shouldn't we give it away for free? Especially when the players invest so much time in our game. I like that philosophy. So
wow.
That's what I do.
That's a tough argument. So, Brendan, build your MMO here, sir.
Right. Okay, this may sound a little bit like Eve, but bear with me. Okay. So, it's a sci-fi MMO in space. The three key features are very, very limited safe storage, so valuable items have to be physically located somewhere in the game. They can't be, like, put in a bank or in a station or whatever. And so if you want to keep stuff safe, you have to put it in a container and hide it somewhere. Next feature is we would give players the tools to design their own structures, things like traps, structures that trigger other structures, things that spawn NPCs, and basically let people build these elaborate complexes to hide their loot in. And then finally, we put it all in one big single shard universe with no instancing or fast travel, so that people will basically be competing to get all this loot, but then they'll hide it in their complexes, design these basically big elaborate dungeons. Other people will come in and smash their dungeons. But also, if you had multiple people together, like a whole guild, they could all congregate in one place and make a massive dungeon and then have their own like guild vault of stuff. And then that would inspire automatic just, guild versus guild or Plunderbund versus Plunderbund.
Right, Plunderbund
PvP.
versus... Right.
As people have stuff like on the line. It's actually there. And the reason that I would suggest that nearly nothing be safe in the game is that it would incentivize people not quitting because their stuff is there. You don't quit a game when your stuff is there. And for the developer, for the genre, I would obviously pick sci-fi, but
right.
It would work equally well in fantasy. Build your own dungeons.
Sure.
For the developer, I would pick CCP just because we're talking about a single shard universe and no one else has done it properly.
All right. Excellent answer. Going to Red. Surprise us, because I don't even know what it is. Go ahead.
So,
It's making it up.
my MMO could not be done. But this is what I would want it to do and how to do it. If you want to build out-of-game community, then at the start and development of the game, you immediately have community involvement. You allow people to integrate because there will be one core fundamental premise to the game. One, I'd love it to be galactic. It's going to be closer to Star Wars, but on a single planet. It is going to be an entire planet. The reason I say it's going to be closer to Star Wars is because Star Wars does have its magic and mysticism, so that will exist, but all forms of communication and such that we're accustomed to today also exist within the game.
So sci-fantasy. Sci-fantasy?
Sci-fantasy, yeah.
Okay.
And I do want that nature of being able to have certain magical powers, but this is where immediately you get some community involvement because essentially you're going to literally recreate an entire world within your game. It is going to be a sphere that hangs in space and is of large size with waterways and everything. You're going to incorporate and duplicate the laws of physics as much as you possibly can, and with that, genuine laws of magic. We won't call it the Force because this is not Star Wars. This is magic laws. And
we don't want to get sued.
Yeah, you don't want to get sued by Lucasfilm.
Exactly. We're going to call it the pressure But the key is you're starting at the very beginning and you're incorporating people that are outside the game and you're getting all of these fundamental rules, and it's going to be nuanced and in depth and incorporated entirely into the design of the entire planet. You want it to have player creation rather than having an API to allow people to access and do what they would like and to create things within the game. You actually build the rules of this entire planet and everything within it and all of its plants, wildlife, minerals, everything. That's your API. You interact with those components in order to make what you need to. Or you interact with the laws of the magic in order to formulate new magic. It will naturally have, what do they call it, emerging properties, because you set up these laws, and when people figure out how these laws interact, emerging properties result.
So ultimately you want a sandbox.
It would, if this is going to be community player created content, then yes, it's going to be much more of a sandbox, and I want it to be entirely interactive.
Yeah.
If you cut down a tree on the planet, that tree is down until enough time passes that another tree grows, and it actually grows, and it uses the minerals and resources in the earth that it's growing out of to create itself. The laws of nature hold true.
People will just destroy this entire world on day one.
And that would,
but
it
does seem open to abuse, though. It does seem to like. It seems to be like it's too open to abuse. Like at least with mine, you have two continents. You have the main questing area that you can't touch, and then you've got the player continent. You know, yours just seems like I could get a group of mates of mine and let's just go destroy everything, and that's it, and just ruin people's time and investment.
So first off, it's not going to happen in day one because day one you don't have anything.
Right, but eventually that could happen.
Eventually it could, but then there's probably going to be people that stop you. I'm up in the air as to what happens. Is there permadeath? I don't know, but that might be a thing. And like, you know, can somebody actually get powerful enough to wipe out the entire planet? Well, that's going to take a hell of a lot of time, and they're going to have to survive an assassination.
Right.
Player created content, you know. The community itself will prevent itself from imploding, or will actually encourage itself to destroy. It's the classic human question. Will we wipe ourselves out in enough time because we create something to destroy ourselves?
Go ahead, Brendan.
Eve's probably the biggest example of why that won't work, because you say like, oh, it's all right. The community will stop people from abusing each other. No, they won't. They will take part.
They'll take part, in which case they're not abusing. They're playing the game.
Let me get some differentiation here between.
I get more points because that's not 3 points.
Oh, wait. Who would develop it? I didn't get that.
I got no clue on the effing developer, but the biggest thing is that it would also have full mobile integration. Not that you could play the game on your mobile device, but you could communicate with anybody in the game on your mobile device. You could actually send in-game messages or packages or whatever through your mobile device, because you can this is a sci fantasy. You do have the internet, you do have electricity, whatever. These things can exist. And so you can use your mobile technology to do mobile technology type things in the game.
I think every MMO should have that, to be completely honest.
Yeah.
It's an absolute travesty that like Eve doesn't have an app that you can talk to people in game.
So I do want to differentiate between Cosmic's and Brendan's here, just to so I can get a full scope of everything. I'd like to know why. Okay, so how is so I'm assuming that the single this is the thing I want to talk about here is the single shard versus these two continents, and I'm assuming we're talking still kind of sort of talking single shard with yours, Cosmic, or no?
Well, in the sense that like the player continent would be
its thing
one, and then you would travel, and there would probably be like a load screen or whatever between. So it would be separate. It would be instance. The two would be separate. It wouldn't be.
But other than that, like that one continent, there's not going to be multiple instances of.
No, it would be straight through.
Okay, and
end to end.
That's the way I caught it. Well, I would like to know why. Why? Let me go with Brendan first here. Why a single world would work better? Why do you think a single world would work better than maybe a dual world, if you will?
Well, to be honest, a lot of games have tried to do a single world approach, but only Eve's managed to do it properly, do it justice so far, with having had one universe and no instancing. There's literally, for each point in space, there's only one instance of that exists. If you're in a place, you're physically in that place. If items are put in somewhere, you can't have someone can't like fly past that and not see your item, because it is physically in that location. I think that's a really important thing for territorial warfare. So, for example, if you've got two people fighting over a star system and someone conquers it, it's not like, oh, I just conquered that on my one server out of 100 servers. It's like, I now own this whole star system. Everything in this star system is mine, or my Plunderbunds.
So, let me ask you this, Cosmic. What? And I know we're really speculating here, and so I want to preface with that. But Brendan mentioned that, I mean, everything, there's like one thing, and you can't one thing of each item. So, or this item, not one thing of each item, but you know what I mean. Like this item exists here and exists nowhere else. And whereas, how are you going to prevent things like that, like my item, from being incorporated into a place to where this item doesn't have, it can't be destroyed, or it can't be taken by somebody else? We have you have a dev shard and or a continent. You have a dev continent and you have a player continent. On the player continent, that thing, although I'm holding it right now, somebody can take that from me. But I go over to the dev side, that's not going to happen, right? Or what's the big differentiation here?
Oh, didn't think about it this deeply. On the fly. The way I would probably have it, and this isn't going to be very popular with people who like complete, I suppose, true open world and open PvP and stuff, but the way I would have it is I would have PvP zones, like, you know, in the middle possibly, or instance PvP. And the reason I say that is because I'm not adverse to open world PvP. I just find that for the majority of players, to ensure the best experience in general, like for example, with the player designed and created equipment, I don't want to just create something and then while walking back to my house have it stolen, right? that would suck, and that would suck for a lot of people, and they would leave the game. So I would have instance PvP in like a big open, like almost like Elder Scrolls Online, where they have Cyrodiil as a big PvP zone. I would have something like that rather than, you know, let's go gank people in a town kind of thing. That's how I would ensure that kind of fairness, I think.
So you basically you appeal to the people that aren't necessarily interested in that, into open world PvP or constant having.
Yeah, because ultimately I think my game would be about player content, and it would be dark fantasy, and it would be, you know, it would all be about immersion and story and player-made stories, and it would appeal to people. You know, if you want to go in and just be a dick, then go play World of Warcraft. I don't care, right? I would like to have a world where I could go in and go and meet other players and have a good time. And if I wanted to PvP, I'll go to the Cyrodiil zone or something like that. But you know, I want to go in and enjoy the world and create stuff.
But if we're talking about creating communities, you want to create these really tight-knit communities of people that's like really play together constantly and are not going to quit. So if we're talking about that, Eve's probably one of the best examples of a game that's managed to do that. People stay in that game for years after they would normally have quit, just because their friends are in the game, and it's not just friends; it's people who they have had their back. They've been through a lot of like battles together, and they've you know, I had a guy in my Eve Corp who he used to be our fleet commander, and he has saved us on so many occasions. And we just have every time we like meet up, we tell these stories about all the different battles. I still remember them. We still like trail all these war stories effectively. I think you have to have a kind of open world PvP where something.
But you're saying that, but Eve doesn't have open world PvP. Eve has only sections. Like PvP can only be done in 0.0 or whatever. You can't.
Well, I guess that's kind of like a technicality. PvP can happen anywhere. There's just punishments for it if you do it in high security space. But
what I'm saying is, but in high security space though, if someone blows you up, unlikely, but if they do, right, your stuff isn't going to get stolen. It remains. Whereas in 0.0, you get blown up, someone takes all your stuff.
No, if you get blown up in high sec, I'm pretty sure people will loot your wreck immediattle. That happens pretty quickly.
I didn't know if I didn't think that was you were able to do that.
Well, I think Eve's actually quite lax on things like that. So
right.
Whenever you're destroyed anywhere, 50% of your modules will drop as loot. Your ship is just gone, poof.
Okay.
And 50% of your modules will be destroyed and your cargo.
But therefore, I would argue that the punishment aspect of PvP in high sec stops the majority of people from PvPing in high sec.
Yeah, I mean, but obviously you've got corporate wars and stuff as well, so people do war over things. For my game example, it would be a case of everyone has their stuff at risk in some way. So either you don't have much stuff, or your stuff is hidden somewhere. So right. Everyone has something to protect, and that kind of that kind of forced vulnerability kind of forces you to group together and form communities to defend each other's stuff.
So I want to get into although,
and the best part is if you're building a community and you're developing.
Hold on a second. I'm actually getting to that.
The community that installs those rules of Magic are that you can actually formulate binding contracts that cannot be violated and protect you.
I'm actually getting to that because one of the things I'm really interested to know the difference between is what Cosmic's idea of like the player created content is, and how what are the rules regarding that player created content versus Redna. What are your rules? And I'm going to let Redna go first because he hasn't spoken in a while. Is what are the rules regarding that content and who ultimately decides? And I know you say community, but when you're talking community, that's a pretty large group of people, and they're not everybody's going to agree without some sort of system in place. So what kind of system would be in place, would you foresee?
The system generates directly from the laws of the physics and the magic that are
when creating the content in the first place. That's what I mean. You said that the game isn't created.
The content is created within the game through the mechanic. Rather than
what are the mechanics? What are the mechanics? That's what I'm getting at. What are the mechanics behind deciding what content actually ultimately gets produced? Who decides
the players.
That? Okay,
the players actually make it.
Exactly.
They physically interact with the world and the environment in order to create it.
I don't think you're understanding what I'm asking is there's always some sort of rules someplace, right, for content being created. There's always some kind of rule, like whether it's the game mechanics. So if it is the game mechanics themselves that dictate what content is created, what are those game mechanics?
Okay, so first off, you would have the basic ones that if you have a piece of metal and you beat it and forge it in fire, it can be made into a sword.
Okay.
Or if you shape it properly, then it can be made into a gun. Like, you literally can make these things.
So
then you've got the other side of it, which would be the magic aspect of it, in which you could then start creating some forms of protections or whatever. If you join a plunder bus, then you have to do a magic ceremony in order to protect yourselves from being looted and having your things destroyed by one another within your plunderbuss. Whatever direction you want to go with that. Now, ultimately, there's going to be a lot of different opinions on how. as we've seen in this conversation amongst ourselves, there are going to be differences of opinion on that. I actually much prefer that if you wanted to do something along the lines of his EVE concept, where there are certain sectors where there are penalties and other things like that, then those zones... Now, and by the way, the community is not going to destroy the planet day one because the planet is the size of planet Earth, and even if every single person on the planet Earth made a character and was walking around on it, can we destroy the planet? Because we've been trying for a long time, and we certainly haven't done it.
I don't think we've been trying hard enough.
And I think that the mass population hasn't been trying. That's not their goal. They're going to want to play a game. And yeah, they might want to take each other.
Here's what you do. You make your game, and then you post about it on the Something Awful forums, and the next day your game is gone.
There you go.
So basically...
But I would say that there would be, perhaps within these laws of magic, then, an ability to say that attacking and killing somebody within this city has consequences.
So actually, what you're kind of...
Rides on the laws.
I'm sorry, say that
That
again?
would have to be like, so within that city, the citizens of that city would actually have to work together in order to establish that magical protection.
I'm actually getting my head wrapped around what he's actually building here, which is really kind of funny. He's essentially building EverQuest Landmark.
I thought that.
Yeah.
That's what.
I know nothing about it.
Yeah, that's kind of what it's something like that, and it's where basically except instead of Landmark being multiple different instances of the same thing, we're talking about one entire planet. But and in Landmark, just for those that aren't necessarily familiar, you've got pretty much an open space, and you can pretty much do whatever you want. It's like Minecraft to the next level. It's kind of what it is, and you can then you can build stuff on top of that. You can create your own things out of the things you find in the ground, or the things you chopping down a tree or whatever. Those kind of things you can build. You can build from that, and the scope of what you can build ranges from. Is only limited by your imagination. There's also things that you can build that determine different kinds of rules within your platform, like your area. So I get what you're getting at, and it actually makes quite a bit of sense. So what I'd like to know then, and so you're still in play here, Red. And I do want to turn it over to Cosmic and kind of get a different perspective regarding because his Red's player-generated content here is really kind of very open regarding what it can ultimately become. How does...
Can I actually add one little thing, because it does kind of... it draws me a little closer to Brian, or Brendan, which is... part of the reason that you need to be able to interact with this world with, say, your cell phone is because since everything is persistent, your guildies or Plunderbund members are going to, you're going to have Plunderbund members that are in the game when you're not, and you might actually need to work together to protect your resources.
Why did I give that point to Brendan again? Because we keep calling them Plunderbuns, and apparently...
I said we could have called...
Yes, because you know what? This community came up with that label.
This is what happens. It'll spread.
If I ever make an MMO, it's going in.
Oh, yeah, man.
But, yeah, no, totally. EVE, actually, a lot of EVE players, they use Mumble, or some of them have even built their own apps just for basically putting on the call to arms, or for gathering intelligence, and or they use various web services that they've put together just to let people know what is the state of our empire, and do we need you on right now to defend, and what time do we need you on and stuff. So completely, it's absolutely necessary.
And that would be, and this is how you really have it's not only community created content within the game, but it's also community communication that is inside and outside of the game. Now, sorry about that interruption.
No, okay. So, Cosmic, I want to know about your player created concept. You said the Steam Workshop is some words that you use. What exactly would be the rules governing what is created and what isn't created?
Well, it would essentially be a bit of both. It would kind of taking a lot of different ideas and putting them together. For example, for the equipment, you would have basically a library of pre-developer made assets that you could customize and put together, or you can have like a Steam Workshop kind of deal where people create their own, modders create their own kind of stuff and then upload it, and then you can use that. Whereas the towns would work differently. So the towns would be more like a bit like Landmark, in the sense that you would have a list of materials and blocks and different kinds of items to build your buildings out of, and the player housing would work similar like that. So it would kind of work like that, but my game is a bit old school in the way that it would have game laws of protection on buildings and stuff like that. And that, for example, the equipment can be patented, so that can't be copied. But at the same time, you would have to probably pay an upkeep to maintain that patent, to ensure that if a guild builds a town, spends a lot of money building a town, and then they all leave the game, that space can be then reused, because the game will say, well, these people have gone, right? Their upkeep's gone. That's it, done. That kind of thing. So that's pretty much how it would work. I mean, it's a combination of different ideas, but I think for the town specifically, you need to kind of rein it in a little bit more, because that is more open to abuse. Whereas things like weapons and armor and equipment, you can give players more free rein to upload their own assets and do different kinds of things to make the whole experience more unique.
What's really interesting about all three of your guys' designs is and I think this is kind of telling to what we want out of MMOs, is we want to be able to have some sort of ownership of whatever space is there. We want to have some sort of ownership to it, and all three of you guys have kind of spoke to that in your designs. So I mean, and two different levels and two different aspects of the game as well. And I really appreciate that, because I think that sends a message, hopefully, to developers that the one or two developers that might be watching this. And
I'm a developer watching this.
All right, there you go. See, there's one. Yeah, and so this is really, really tough to say who's the best, and ultimately what I'm going to have to go with, which is it's a little bit I think because I can't choose. This is really what it boils down to. I can't choose between the game mechanics, because all of you guys' game mechanics are amazing, and I would want to play any one of those games. And so I think the only developer that I think is on the cutting edge of being able to pull in the people and create the world that has been presented.
Pick the developer that did Witcher.
I'm going to have to go with CD Projekt Red, because they are just amazing at what they've been doing recently. So Cosmic gets the point. Although, really, to be honest, you guys' games were amazing, and I'd play any one of them. So I'm going to give the point to Cosmic, which means Cosmic gets the game as well. So congratulations, yay! And what that means?
You win the internet.
You win one.
He's the
internet.
king. What did I say it was going to be? King of something. King of content.
King of content. There we go. So Cosmic, since you won the game, you get to go first and plug your many things that you do around the internet. So go right ahead.
You can join my Plunderbund at youtube.com/thecosmicengine. And pretty much all my content goes there, regardless of where else it's posted. I have a website and stuff like that, but everything gets posted there. And I occasionally write some articles for a few websites, but no one reads it. So
what's the latest? Some of the latest stuff that you've done?
This week I do early access critique. I don't like early access games, and you can't review them as you would a full product. So I try to develop a format into basically taking a critical look, because at the end of the day, these developers are charging money for this, and you should protect the customer. So I developed a video format for taking a look at early access games, which talks about what they've actually got in there now and what's promised. And so I recently took a look at Warhammer 40,000 Regicide, which is a Warhammer 40,000 themed chess game, which is actually kind of interesting because they took the chess game and added new mechanics to it, which is quite interesting. And I've got loads of things coming up, like Witcher review probably in a couple of weeks. I'll play through the entire thing first. And that just basically get whack videos out every couple of weeks and see what happens.
Excellent. Brendan, what kind of stuff can they find from you on the internet?
Well, I write for Massively OP, so you can check out my, it's now every 2 weeks, Eve Evolved column on there. And my Not So Massively columns, just a roundup of all the like MOBA news and other games that aren't really MMOs, but they're pretty big online games nonetheless. And I develop a game, so I'm working on a sci-fi 4X game. It's actually in early access.
Is it?
Yeah, but it's called Predestination, and you can either check that out or don't check that out. I don't know.
All right, Red, where can we find your stuff?
When does this publish?
This will go up on next Wednesday. So, like, what is it? The 20th? No, the 13th. Sorry.
Can I answer this twice?
Sure.
So, you can find me at R3DN4 pretty much anywhere. Just Google it. That's Redna, but rather than vowels, you've got numbers. R3DN4. I'm twitch.tv/R3DN4. On Twitter at R3DN4. Email me, R3DN4 @Yahoo, R3DN4 @Live, you know. Unfortunately, R3DN4 is not a name you can actually make on Gmail.
Oh, that's disappointing.
Like, it's not long enough or something, I don't know. But beyond that, watch Hyperspace Beacon, because I am going to be launching something new and doing some integration on there. And quite frankly, I can't say anything more about it because I'm waiting on a picture.
All right. Well, yeah, definitely keep an eye on Hyperspace Beacon. It'll be a cool thing. I'll watch my Twitter as well. If you'd like, you can find me on Twitter at Shadow SHADDOE. This show comes out every Wednesday on Massively Overpowered, MassivelyOP.com. You can also find Massively OP on like just about everywhere. You know, Google Plus, those kinds of places. Twitter at Massively OP, and we're obviously on YouTube as well. Like and subscribe if you enjoyed this show. We'll continue to make them, and I want to thank my guests for showing up. You guys did an amazing job. It was a great debate, and I can't wait to have you all on again. So thank you very much, and to everybody else, see you next week. Hey, Massively Opinionated and Massively Overpowered is now on Patreon, and if you like the things that we do, if you like this show, if you like all the MMO news and commentary that we have on MassivelyOP.com, toss a few bucks over on Patreon. We really appreciate it, and there's also some great rewards, including possibly even being on this show yourself. So check that out over there. It's patreon.com/massivelyoP. Thanks a lot.